perception is very, very tightly related to action, to movement forward, and to emotion. And those things are very important to know. They're very tightly associated. So for example, you live in a map, let's say, or a story, and the story is, wherever I am isn't as good as it could be, and so I'm going to go somewhere that's somewhat better. And you know, that can be of different time frames. Maybe you've got a plan for the next minute. You know, you're hungry, and so you want to go somewhere to eat, or maybe it could be for the next hour, or the next week, or the next day, or the next year, or whatever. But basically what you're trying to do is take where you are, point A, and make it better, point B. And so you're always somewhere that isn't quite as good as it should be, and you're always going somewhere that's somewhat better. At least that's the hope. Unless things have gone wrong, you know, and you feel, God, it's nothing but downhill from here on in. And that's not good. You don't want that. That's a pathological condition. So, and it's kind of unfortunate in some sense because it means you can't be satisfied with what you've got. But how the hell can you be satisfied with what you've got? Because you've got problems coming your way. You know, I mean, even if everything's okay right now, which it probably isn't, but even if it was, that doesn't mean everything's going to be okay tomorrow or next week or next year or 5 years from now, right? You've got the future to take care of and your future self, and you've got your family to take care of, and maybe you've got your community to take care of, so you've got some problems. And so the way things are isn't good enough. And so you're going to fix them a bit. And so then you fix them across different levels of resolution. And you do this, you do this technically in this manner. So you identify where you are. One thing you might think about is if you're mixed up, one of the problems you might have is that you don't know where you are. Lots of times people have to go to therapy or talk for a long time to someone to find out where they are, because your experience might have scattered you everywhere, and you feel that that you've come apart at the seams, right? That things have fallen apart around you, that you're in chaos. You don't know where you are, and so then you're in trouble, because how the hell are you going to plot a course forward into the future if you don't know where you are? And so maybe you have to bring yourself up to date. I have an exercise online, by the way, at a place called Self-Authoring, which is called the Past Authoring Exercise, fittingly enough. And what it asks you to do is to write an autobiography. It's a guided autobiography, and it can kind of bring you up to date. And you can know if you need to be brought up to date. It's fairly straightforward. If you're obsessed by memories of the past, more than 18 months old, and most of those are negative, so anxiety-provoking most often, then there's a lot of you that's stuck in the past. And what that means is you didn't map the territory well enough, and the parts of your brain that are alarm systems, anxiety systems, are saying, no, there's holes in the way you're looking at the world. There's holes in the way that you're looking in the world. And you fell in them once, and you don't know where they are, and you don't know how to fill them, and you don't know how to walk around them, and so you can't forget them, you can't forget them, you can't forget them, you can't forget them. So you have recurring nightmares, for example, are a good example of that sort of thing happening. But in any case, if you have memories like that, you remember them, they make you feel anxious and negative, you're stuck back there. Your body is still reacting as if there's an emergency that could happen again that you haven't fixed. And it doesn't matter if it was your fault. That's irrelevant, because the alarm system doesn't care. Like, when your smoke detector goes off, it isn't relevant whether it was your fault. The smoke detector just says, house is on fire. And that's a bad thing. And your anxiety systems are like that. If they're tagging old memories with anxiety, then you have to do something about it. Or you will be tortured by those memories forever, because that's how the alarm system works. And so maybe you need to go back there and clean things up. You've got to figure out, okay, well, how did this happen? What sort of role did I play? Even if it's a minor role, that doesn't matter, because the point is that you don't want to be put in the same vulnerable position again. So anything you can do to strengthen yourself is good. You know, and often if it's a really old memory, like maybe you were a child, you're not a child now. So you probably have a variety of techniques at hand that you could use to deal with a situation like that if it came up now. And so you have to update that part of your brain that still thinks you're 4.
I don't think we know how to manage our life correctly, and life doesn't come with a guidebook. It doesn't come with, when you're in this condition, seek out these remedies. Start exercising, get together with your friends, tell them you love them, meet up and have dinner and hug each other, sleep well, drink water. Also, you know, so many of us have a bad head start. So you're coming out of this stressful pocket, or maybe your dad goes to jail, or maybe your mom dies when you're young. All these things that happen to people where they have this bad start, right? And then they develop defense mechanisms to deal with all their insecurities, and they get around similar-minded people, and you curse the world and everybody and the police and this, and then you get in these communities of people that think the same way. And then maybe there's gangs, and maybe there's drugs, and maybe there's crime and despair and sadness, and maybe just negative people. Maybe there's none of the above. Maybe there's no danger. It's just annoying. Every day people complaining about shit. And you're stuck in the mud of humanity with people. It's real hard to engineer 350 million people out of that. But for yourself, you can take actions to make your life better. And if everybody did that, if everybody took actions to make their life a happier experience by doing those things, by exercising, eating well, hugging friends, enhancing community, just trying to be nicer to people. If you don't have certain standards, then other people will chew up all your time, and their problems become your problems, and they're not even thinking about their problems. They're thinking about you thinking about their problems. I mean, there's many people that pawn off their problems on other folks, and they think that if you're a good friend, you're helping me. Like, you're not a good friend. You're not taking care of me. You're not helping me. I'm like, you're not even helping yourself. The f are you doing for yourself? Like, this is a trap that a lot of people get stuck into. It's codependency. It happens in a lot of relationships. There's a lot of people that get involved in relationships, boy and girl, that they find that the person who is their soulmate is also the source of all their problems, and they're the curator of this person's life. They're supposed to be like helping this person along, because this person is like deemed them the person who's most important to them. And it's like, you gotta find out what, you know, what's the boundary. People are so crazy. They want you to believe, I don't have the energy to exercise. To give people this excuse, I don't have the energy to exercise. That is crazy to say. Can you walk to the refrigerator? Yes. Well, you can exercise. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just walk around the block. There's 80-year-old ladies who take yoga with me. They're really old, and they're in there. They're going after it. They could easily say, I don't have the energy to do that, but they don't. It's a mental attitude. They make a decision. You don't have to go to a CrossFit class and try to do the workout of the day. You don't have to go nuts and do clean and presses with 150 pounds. You don't have to do that, but you have to do something. Just get your blood moving. Your body has requirements. It wants to move. It really does. And when it does, you feel better. But people like to give themselves this excuse. I do not have the energy to do this. Whatever. If you decide that, that's true. But if you watch a motivational video, there's 100 of them on YouTube, thousands even. You go watch one, you'll get fired up. You're like, and I'm gonna jump some rope. You jump some rope, you do something. Just do some push-ups, do something, do some body weight squats. You'll feel better. But it's also like learning that and having that as a part of your daily life. I'm talking about just a regular person who's overweight. You can do it. There's a lady who's like 450 pounds that takes yoga with me. She's enormous. She's in there. She's probably really embarrassing, very hard to do, you know, and she's in there. Anyone could do it. We can do it. And again, I'm not saying do what Michael Phelps does. I'm just saying just do something. Got to do something. We have up lifestyles. The human body is not designed to sit down all day, and it's certainly not designed to be stuck in traffic and be in an office and just be, you know, fluorescent lights and just sitting there in front of a computer monitor watching your soul get sucked through the LCD screen. It's crazy. You can appreciate some things. You can appreciate a nice car or a nice house, but if you get really caught up in them, you are trying to fill up a bucket with a hole in it. Yeah. And it's never going to fill up. Yeah. You're always just going to look for bigger and bigger things to try to fill that bucket up, and you're going to feel full of anxiety all the time chasing that. Yeah. And there's no real satisfaction.